There are ways and things that we should be doing to get from under the thumb of the government. I think it's about time, don't you? Hi, what's up? My name is Lael, and today I want to talk about politics. First of all, I ain't gonna hold you. I don't actually really care about politics. I understand I live in this country and I should be aware of politics. But I want to talk about how politics is affecting us today, and not in the way that you think at all. No, not interested in talking about anything going on in the White House. Hey, so today somebody said that, have I ever been asked if I looked like Jasmine Crockett? Do you know who Jasmine Crockett is? She's dope, okay? She's in politics. I want to say she's in the Senate. She might be in Congress, but either way, she's dope. I actually do like listening to her. She is one of those women that you want to hear what she's going to say, and she is for her people. She loves defending the people. But no, nobody's ever said that I look like Jasmine Crockett, and she is gorgeous, by the way. But that being set aside, it did get me to thinking about politics. And so I have had this ongoing impatience with my culture. Obviously, I'm Black, as you can see that. And so I want to speak to the way we behave culturally. I want to speak to anybody actually who feels like they need certain things to survive from the government or from anybody but themselves. I want to speak to any culture that feels like they have been stagnated or pushed down or met glass ceilings, even in their self-employment. And I'm going to speak to that later. There are ways and things that we should be doing to get from under the thumb of the government. I think it's about time, don't you? So I want to talk about how we move in this country. And I put on my glasses because I'm reading my notes and I want to make sure I don't forget anything because I think it's really important information. So the man who will not be named in this video or any of my videos if I can help it has gone into the White House and created chaos and drama, and the country's been pretty shaken up. And we're still in a state of, I don't know what's going to happen next. And I think up until now, for the most part, no matter who we elected, we kind of have this vibe of like, okay, he's going to do what he's going to do. My day-to-day is going to keep running the way it's always been running. It's not really going to affect my job. It's not really going to affect my income. And it's definitely not going to affect how I go to the grocery store. Obviously, that has all changed. The thing that got me the most disturbed, and I've had plenty of debates about this, is our uproar about the way he's changing things. And it got me to thinking about colored people, mostly Black people, in this country who are probably not affected by the government because they have a sustainable form of income. They have a sustainable livelihood. And I'm imagined most of them have figured out a way to create finances and income that will take them well past retirement and be passed on probably to their children. Somebody like a Tyler Perry is probably affected by the changes that have happened because he's culturally aware, because he wants to support the people, his people, people of color, people who have been oppressed. But very likely that Tyler Perry is very okay, that he probably does not have any need for affirmative action or DEI, which we're going to talk about in a second. Somebody like a Jay-Z and, dare I say, Beyonce have carved out their own niches in ways that affect their income that is directly connected to the consumer. There's no real middleman. And outside of some regulations or laws, they have a way that even if the government took everything away, that they can go out and use their talent to make money and survive. Somebody like a Denzel Washington or any actors, athletes, and I said Jay-Z and Beyonce, but even musicians, anyone with a natural talent has a way that they could at some point make money entertaining. And that can be direct to consumer if they had to do that, especially with something like social media and YouTube. I think Will Smith is a great example of this, of taking his craft and finding ways to connect directly to people. I don't know if he's found ways to make money on that yet, or if he's surpassed what I probably would think he's doing. But for me, something like that to me lends to being more self-sufficient and not depending on the government, and being at a point where they can do whatever the heck they want. There's some other people that are extremely wealthy. Robert F. Smith, David Stewart. If you just Google Black billionaires in this country, you'll be quite surprised at how many people have found ways to create enough income and sustainability in their lives that something like a DEI or affirmative action really, I mean, it affects them, but it doesn't really affect them. It affects them because culturally it affects us all. And that is anybody, right? Because it affects the way we do business. It affects consumerism. It affects how we're interacting with each other in these environments, because if we don't feel supported, we take our business somewhere else. And then if you're privately owned and you're not colored, you feel like, I'm not the one who took away the DEI. So I get it, because then we want to just support our own culture. So it affects everybody, and we shouldn't be dependent on that at this point. Let me just back up a little bit. So I believe that I'm going to start with definitions of these words, and then explain to you the importance and value of them, and explain to you why we're at a point in time where it's time for us to move past them and utilize our own knowledge and skill sets so that nobody can have control over how we move or how we live, not even the president. Okay? So DEI, as I searched by Google definitions, and I don't know if that's Webster, but in the United States, diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, are organizational frameworks that seek to promote the fair treatment and full participation of all people, particularly groups who have historically been underrepresented or subject to discrimination based on identity or disability. So the DEI was put in place so that companies, particularly, or other organizations, maybe like colleges, were being fair. Because, and you know what, let me do affirmative action first. Affirmative action in government is a set of principles, a set of policies that aim to improve opportunities for underrepresented groups in employment and education, and it can include hiring practices, college admissions, and government contracts. So DEI and affirmative action helped people who were not getting opportunities to get jobs, to get raises, to get promotions, to be recognized or seen, to sell their products in big box stores or big brand stores because of racism, because of segregation, because of discrimination, because people were only doing things with people that they knew or they felt comfortable with, because the support looked like, I don't even want to hear how great your idea is because you're not looking like me. And so those laws and rules were kind of necessary because we did not have what we needed to be able to launch and really build on our own businesses and our own sources of income. We tried, okay? We did try, but they were taken away from us and there were no laws in place or any way we could defend ourselves. But I think one of the things that we need to first of all do is stop doing the things that are not working. So I want to talk about why I'm frustrated with these policies and what it is that makes it so easy for us to be comfortable in our situations, and the things that we complain about that I think just add to the lack of interest in really doing something different. I've heard people say, my friends even, that they're kind of tired of people from other countries coming here to this country and taking our job and taking our business opportunities. I've heard people of color say things like, they're the reasons why we don't get loans, they can get money and we can't. And one of the things that you probably want to understand, first of all, go talk to somebody who owns one of these businesses. Ask them how they got started. Ask them what they did, and I'll bet you it's more of a bootstrap story than you think. I don't think that we should be making up excuses for why we don't try something because somebody else did something. I think it's fair to say everybody in this country originated from another country except for indigenous Indians. So with that being said, if you go to another country, more likely than not, the livelihood is dependent on somebody starting some kind of a business. I think the other thing that we need to stop doing is saying that we're not getting enough from the government. The government has nothing to do with the fact that you are not financially budgeting your own money well. It has nothing to do with the fact that you haven't figured out the resources that you need in order to elevate yourself financially or emotionally or mentally or in your world or in your space. The government has nothing to do with the fact that you, when you did get money from the government, $600 a week, you stopped working at your job because you hated it there so much and took vacations. You didn't invest. You didn't take the time to think about what was going to happen when this unemployment ran out. You didn't project into the future and do something that was beneficial for you or your families. The point I'm trying to make is that the government is here as an assistance, and there are times when the government is necessary. There are times when the government is extremely helpful. I'm not sure how this is going to be received, but I believe welfare is sometimes extremely beneficial. I believe Section 8 is extremely beneficial, but I don't believe we're meant to live on it for the rest of our lives, or for God's sakes, pass it down to our children. I think it's something that when you hit a hard time or a rough rock, you take advantage of what your government that you pay taxes for is offering you. And then you bootstrap it and you figure out what your next step needs to be. You get out of that situation. The other thing I hear a lot of people having issue with is our environment. We live in this country. There's so many opportunities here. And granted, culturally, Black people have definitely had a tough ride for centuries. Not a few weeks or a few months, for quite a long time. We've been systematically and emotionally and mentally trained to behave and think a certain way. And so it's very easy for us to say our environment is the problem. But if I go back to what we talked about a few minutes ago, somebody can come from a completely different country and do the thing that we're scared to do. We don't know how to do it. We don't have the money to do. So I don't think that we need to be using those things as excuses. I know one thing for me that was definitely a barrier, and sometimes still is not having any real life role models. Thank God for YouTube. Because if it wasn't for YouTube, I would still be walking from library to library and bank to bank, trying to figure out who's having the next webinar on how to buy property, or who's going to do a seminar on entrepreneurship or starting a business, because we didn't use that word back in the day. So for me, the internet has been a great resource for my virtual mentors, my virtual role models. So we don't really have that as an exclusive excuse anymore. I will say this much: sometimes when you have questions, you're not sure, you bump your head in the road, it does get a little challenging when you don't have anybody to talk to or anybody to ask, what should I do? Who should I call? How can I handle this situation? I definitely get it. But I don't think that that should be the excuse for us not even trying or quitting or giving up when things get a little tough. Becoming wealthy is not realistic for me is something that I've heard subliminally said by a lot of people of color. I understand. Who do you know that's wealthy? I mean, a millionaire, not somebody who just has six figures, because that's quite normal these days, but somebody who is so far gone in terms of wealth that you know their children are going to be just fine no matter what they decide to do with their lives. Somebody who is so wealthy that you see them constantly giving back into the community and feeding and filling up on being an asset instead of being a consumer. So I know personally for myself, I really don't think I know anybody, definitely not in my immediate family, maybe in the extension of my family, but nobody that's touched my life on a regular basis or even on a removed basis where I've seen them once a year, where I can call them or text them or ask them questions or even look at their life and see them as an example. So definitely get it if that is one of the things that you feel like is holding you back. So I want to kind of talk about getting over that hump. But before I do that, I want to go over some things that I see personally that are missing in the market in terms of what we can do culturally to get ahead of and get from having to do things like boycott. You know, I get it. I get it when we came from an era where we had absolutely no options, and we've transitioned into an era where we do kind of have a little more control. We definitely have an opportunity to move in a way that doesn't require us to go to Target if we really, really pulled ourselves together and didn't have to. So one of the things I see that's missing in the market is innovation. Culturally, there may be one or two, a handful of people in my state that I have no idea about, I don't know where they are, that are innovative, that are inventors, that are doing things that are creative, that provide products that we're needing or missing. Something like the internet, I don't know how many of you can remember when we did not have it, when computers weren't even a thing. But somebody had an idea and a creativity and started doing something that nobody else really thought to do. And then somebody else expanded on it, and we've been running ever since. But I think in our community, I know my husband has a lot of great ideas. Like, he is really brilliant. A lot of things that he wants to do are genuinely useful things that are innovative, that are maybe not out in the market right now. And if they are not out in the market enough where he could just go easily find the thing that he needed, he's had ideas about glasses, about books, about riding bikes, just different things that are very creative and require some invention. But there's a cost associated with that. You want to be able to survive and pay your bills. And this is something that would probably be more idealistic for somebody who's a little bit younger, or somebody who has financial backing or support from his family or friends that can take the time out to tweak and do these things. If we hear the stories, Thomas Edison didn't invent the light bulb in the first try. The stories. I don't know the accurate truth about that, but from what I hear, it took him 1,000 tries before he got the right one. And that takes time, and it takes energy, and it takes effort, and it takes money. And it takes somebody to be able to feed you and clothe you and wash your clothes. So there's a lot of resources that you would need to be able to do that. So if you are somebody who is an inventor and you have somebody that supports you, I would highly recommend starting down that path. Something that I also would love to see more of, and I'm not sure if I'm the only one, and I'm not saying this in a negative way, but I think it's the thing that would help us not to be dependent on the government. And that's quite simply turning our Black-owned businesses national or international, if we can get that far, where the companies that are started by people of color become so well known that it's normal and commonplace. It's easy to want to buy from them because you've heard the name before. I was just looking online for toothpaste, because your girl needs toothpaste, okay? And thinking, like, if we're boycotting Walmart and Target, where am I getting toothpaste? Am I going to ShopRite? Am I going to Amazon? It seemed to have defeated the purpose of boycotting Walmart and Target for me. I kind of felt like if I'm going to boycott them, I'm going to boycott everybody that has an opportunity to control our fates, if you will. So I looked for Black-owned companies that sold toothpaste. And I'll be honest with you, I support and buy, and I'm waiting for it to come in the mail, but I support and would buy that. But I am definitely a little leery, and I do still have the brands that I normally use in the bathroom, because I'm not sure if I'm going to like it. I'm not sure if it's going to make me sick. I'm not sure if it's going to break out my mouth. I'm not sure about anything. I've never seen anybody else use these brands. I've never even heard of these brands. I don't even know if these brands are actually real or I'm getting scammed, considering I haven't gotten the product yet. So for me, the more well-known a company is, the more likely we are to support it and buy it, not even because it's colored, but because we're just familiar with it. There's a certain comfortability, sorry. There's a certain comfortability in knowing the name you're buying. You go to the store, and if you go on any aisle and you see two things of chips, two different types of chips, and you see Lay's and you see Lionel's. And if you've never heard of Lionel's, which I have not, I'm not really sure what I'm getting. So I don't think I want to take that risk unless somebody told me, oh, that's a Black-owned business, go ahead and support it. I'll support it for them, but then the chips better taste good, because if there's any issues, I'm still going to be uncomfortable going back to that brand. It's very important that we start getting our names out here, and we start getting the branding and marketing to support our businesses so that people can know who you are and feel comfortable and want to support you regularly, not just as a one-off because you're a Black-owned business. Something else that I think I know is I would love to see more Black-owned or colored-owned pharmacies. And let me not just say colored owned, because I have seen other nationalities that do own pharmacies. I'd love to see more Black owned, and I'd love it to be also kind of recognizable, like a CVS or a Rite Aid, where I know, nope, I know that company. I can go in there and get lots of things, but that's where I get my pharmacy. That's where I go to for my pharmacy stuff, my toiletries, and so on and so forth. I'd love to see more colored owned companies actually going public, if you know what I mean. If you have seed funding, or you have investors, or even if you're just a really big company or big enough where you can actually go public and sell stock, oh my God, I would be super excited. But be a company, again, that we can trust, that we know, that we use, because that's how we buy our stocks. We buy stocks from companies that we're familiar with and that we use, that are fairly safe, but also have a good return on investment. So if you are somebody who's thinking about doing that and you're colored, or especially Black owned, please get your marketing on point so we can find you. My husband and I just found a company that sells, actually, I will leave the name of the company in the bottom. They sell cognac, and he loves cognac. But we just assumed completely Black owned, but there was only 1 out of 10 owners that was Black. And I told them, we still need to support that, because the idea that somebody can even sit at that table and afford to be there is a big deal. And we should support that, because we want to see more of that. We also want to make sure that, if I had my way, Black history would be all year and not just in February when they teach it in the schools. It is important that our children, and we go back to what we talked about with real life role models, our children see and hear about people who have actually done things in our country or even in the world that look like them or from some place that they're from, and can understand and relate to it's possible that they can also do something and be extremely successful at their idea. What I do love is I love to see, and have been seeing, a lot more Black-owned designers doing high-level and luxury brands, because my goodness, if I hear one more person complain about, we always buying Gucci and Prada, why can't we buy something from our own people? And I say, I get it, but are they making luxury? Because I like nice things, and no disrespect to anybody else. But I feel like there wasn't enough representation in that arena, and we still have a ways to go. But for me now, I know there are so many designers that are making luxury quality that I can trust, and that I've seen now they have gotten their names out there in social media enough where I feel like they have brand recognition for me, and I would spend my money there. And that's one thing that I definitely love. I also love seeing a lot more Black founders and Black-owned businesses in general, just across the board. Black-owned banks, even though there's none in New Jersey, I still love it. I do try to look for it every now and then. I check and see if anybody's come over here yet. Black-owned marketing companies. Now, I'm not familiar with marketing overall, but just being on social media and watching a lot of people who are influencers in the fashion arena, I've heard of this company called Kensington Gray, and I found out that they were Black-owned, and I was like, wow. Love that, because they are really supporting and helping a lot of Black-owned influencers, and I say owned because they're starting their own businesses, get out there and get recognized and get paid properly, and I think that's amazing, and I support that as well. And if I ever have an opportunity to work with Kensington Gray, it would be quite an honor. I'm also extremely happy to see more sites that support Black-owned businesses. Like, there's a company called Naspora, Buy Black, and another company, there's a few companies that I saw on Google that were directed towards supporting different types of companies that were Black-owned or Black-run. And I think that we do need more of that for now, but I'm just hoping that one day we'll just see them on a billboard or in an ad, and we'll be like, oh yeah, let me go to that, because we know I'm familiar with the company, whether it's Black-owned or not, but just happens to be Black-owned. What we do need to be more self-sufficient as individuals and culturally is to start with yourself. So we're going to run through this really quick. This is where you might want to take notes if you are a note taker like me. This is the part where I'm going to give you bullet points and tell you step by step exactly what you need to do to get yourself into a position where you can either start something or support something. The first thing is take a look at your current situation. So you're going to review your income, you're going to review your credit, you're going to take a look at your current expenses and debt. This may seem obvious to most of you, you've probably heard it before, but this is going to get you to something much bigger than what you think it is. And it's on such a small level that we can start to affect our own economy and our own culture, that if we don't start with ourselves individually, it's never going to be something that goes across the board. So you have to start first with you. Once you get those records pulled up, and most of them are easy to find or free, you evaluate your situation. Are you currently wealthy, middle class, or poor? And I'm going to tell you in a second how to figure that out. This is not what you think. Don't make up your own system. So how are you going to determine if you're wealthy? If your current income, whether it be from investments or businesses or your job, and I'm going to take your job actually out of it because you'd have to physically work. If your current income would be able to take care of you infinitely for a lifetime and then some without you actually working, then you are wealthy. If you have to show up for work, that does not count. I'm talking about any income, and I would like to say passive, but whatever term fits you. If you have income coming in, that's what you're checking for. If your income lasts anywhere from about 6 months, maybe to 5 years or so, or at least until you die, but not really far past that, consider yourself middle class. Now, there are different levels of middle class. You can be lower middle class, or upper middle class. But at the end of the day, consider yourself middle class. If your income without a job lasts anywhere from 0 months to 3 months, you should put yourself in the poor category. And that is not a disrespect to you on any level. It's just giving you a perspective of where you're starting at, so you have a goal of where you need to go and an idea of where you can get to from where you are right now. If you're already wealthy, then you can already start doing some of the things I'm going to tell you in the next part. If you're not, then you can start building yourself to get to a certain level of wealthy. If you're in the poor category, you have a little bit of a longer way to go, but you will have a lot more resources and a lot more opportunities presented to you so that you can get yourself into one of the other two categories. So start thinking about what you can do to earn extra money without working for someone else's company that will require some work, but be passive. So examples could be becoming a YouTuber. That could be one way that you earn extra income. For now, you do have to work, but how YouTube works is that once you create a video, put it on their platform and keep it public, it will constantly be in rotation. They don't really take the videos off. So if you're there, once you've made one video, your videos could continue to earn you money, depending on if you're monetized and if you have all kinds of other things going on, but it could continue to make you money well after you've done the video. Investing in stocks, that's pretty obvious, but I really want you to dig down into stocks that that pay dividends. So dividends, which is a whole nother topic, is basically a way that whatever you're putting into that stock, they take a certain percentage and give you that money back. That's the easiest way for you to think of it. So if I have a stock and I have $100 worth in that stock, the dividend might be 10 cents. And maybe that doesn't feel like a lot to you right now, but imagine you continually put a little bit more into that same stock, maybe $100 a month. And the next thing you know, you've gotten $10,000. Your 10 cents is now going up to $100, right? I think it's something like that. The math doesn't seem like a lot right now, but you have to think of it as this is money that doesn't take away from your 10,000. So even if it is only $100 a month, that 10,000 is still sitting there. So you're getting $100 every month. So even that little bit of extra money is going towards your cell phone bill or your electric bill or some utility that you're paying for or car note or whatever it is, it's taking the objective that you have to work to pay that bill away. So don't think of it as little. Think of it as an opportunity for you to earn and definitely passive. So you just have to sit there and pick the stocks and invest in them regularly, and then it earns money for you. Another thing that you can do is write a digital book. That's something that is definitely on my list of things to do this year. I think it's not necessarily that easy, but I also think it's not that hard. And believe me, if you go on YouTube, there's about 1 million people telling you how to write a digital book. You can also sell digital products. So this doesn't require a lot of money. And if you're in the lower category, then this could be something that could be a great way for you to earn that extra money and not have to take a lot of time from your job or anything else that you're doing. Become a coach or a teacher who sells courses. So if you're already doing coaching in some kind of way or fashion, just turn what you have into some type of resources with booklets or notes or whatever it is, package it in a way that somebody can actually order it either digitally or physically. And then that's something that once you put it on certain platforms could be readily available at any given time. Of course, you can sell products online. That will require a little more attention, as I've done that. Depending on what type of products you sell, you can also become, I cannot think of the name of it right now. You can become oh my gosh, you know what I'm saying, where you're selling products that you don't actually own. So you can do that as well. And then obviously you can get into real estate. There's quite a few other things that you could do. I just wanted to kind of get the ball rolling and get your mind thinking of like, what can I do to start earning money without actually physically having to work? There's some ways that you can also earn money by saving and getting the best ROI possible on your money. The first, probably most obvious way is getting a high yield savings account that's somewhere around 5% or more. American Express has a great high yield savings account. And there's a few other companies. If you have an account with a credit union, a lot of times they offer a plethora of different products that can give you a return on whatever you just have sitting in the bank, way bigger than the normal 0.001%. You want to do dividends, which we also said. You can look into a Roth IRA, or if you have a 401k, please just make sure it's matching. Otherwise, you might as well do the Roth IRA because your 401k is connected to your job. You can also invest in CDs or money market accounts. So there's a few ways you can earn money on the money you currently have, or if you're in the middle class area, maybe you want to take chunks of money, a few thousand at a time, and put them somewhere where they can earn a lot more money for you while you're working. Put your savings somewhere where you don't see it regularly. This may seem weird, but unless you're excellent at managing your money, and if you don't have at least $100,000 in the bank right now, you're not. So then if your brain sees the money in the bank when you check the account, your brain is going to know the money is available to you. It is going to be a lot easier for you to spend it and or know that you're going to be okay if something happens. Now, I don't want to get into the whole science behind it, but typically if your brain sees a certain amount of money, your brain knows you're going to be okay if you get a flat tire. I don't know how this works, but it seems to me that when you always get a little extra, all of a sudden something happens and you just have enough to take care of that thing that was an emergency. So just put your money somewhere that you have access to, but you don't see it regularly. You're not checking on it every day. You're not checking on it weekly. So now that you've done all that, we want to make sure that we are saving enough to have at least 6 months of expenses saved or held to start, so we can feel a little bit more comfortable about trying out these different ventures and getting ourselves into a certain situation. The next thing we want to do is make sure that we're disconnecting ourselves from our dependency on the government. And this is the part that is probably going to be my favorite. It's going to go by pretty quick. But now that you know how to manage your money, you can actually start doing things that make you more money. You can start supporting other businesses that are privately owned and color owned, especially. You can start your own businesses that support what we need in terms of lifestyle and living. You can support yourself for long enough that if you decide to work exclusively for yourself, you can do that. You can hone in on one of the businesses you started that we just talked about, and then you can learn how to move without depending on a job or somebody else dictating your life for you and or the government needing to enforce a program that supports your culture, color-wise or otherwise. And then the other thing is that now you have options. So now that you know what you're capable of, maybe you can, or maybe I can, find a company that sells toothpaste that is Black owned and that is nationally owned in a pharmacy that we go to regularly, just as much as we spend our coins in Target and Walmart. I hope that all makes sense. I just feel like I love us, people, human beings in general. I love every culture, and I especially love my own. And I think it's fair to say I was extremely upset by what was happening in government as of recently. And I think it's also fair to say that I'm sick of it. I'm sick and tired of us needing them for regular everyday stuff. And I am at the point in my own personal life where I see us growing and being really big as a culture. And I see us doing things where we are all living in a life of luxury. And again, it does not mean necessarily just money, but just having those options where we don't need somebody to say, hey, we're going to give you a chance. We can say, no problem. We'll make our own opportunities. That's what I want to say about politics. Please leave a comment below if you have any opinions at all. But if you have anything that's positive or constructive, then I'd love to be able to share it with other people. I think it's important that we support each other, and even more important that we are living the life of luxury and moving into a way in the world where we're happy and fulfilled. Thank you. It was nice talking to you. I will see you later. Bye.